Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for some more Cosmonarchy, and I'm on screen. I'm a me. I'm a head. Hello. It's going to be time to look at a bracket before we get into our next match of Tribunal number 6. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and take a quick look-see-do. We already see that Sausage has triumphed over Thunderslaps. That was yesterday's video. If you're watching him out of order, then I don't know what to tell you. Spoilers. But still, go back and watch it. At the very least, I thought the casting was great. And Thunderslaps gave it a good attempt playing Terran, not just Zerg, as it says over here. He's also selective random, Terran and Zerg. Either way, that puts us up with PVT, Sausage versus Han Mono. That should be an exciting semifinal. But we got to get through the other quarterfinals, and there are only 3 of them today or this tournament, because we only had that many players available for signing up and all that. This is going to be the next one that we cast. IAMtheWHEATofGOD versus Kenoli, Skozi versus Zerg, and I'm really excited about that. I'm very much quite interested in that. And as you can see, the other roster here, Art of Turtle versus I Like to Eat Grass. That is Skozi versus Zerg as well, because Art of Turtle decided to play a Skozi in this bracket. Yeah, I don't know either, but we'll find out tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you're not already, of course. And without further ado, I suppose we can just go ahead and get right into our match. Again, it's going to be Godwheat versus Kenoli coming up. It's always a good time when you get to cast some Skozi, and Godwheat has given us the excuse to do just that in the bottom right of Corrosion, a map by Biddy Boot. He's rocking out here the Palatinate Purple? Tyrian Purple, there you go. Tyrian Purple Protoss. And, not Protoss, I'm always used to calling them Protoss, because that's what comes after Tyrian Purple in my head. Blame all the campaigns I used to make back in the day. They were always Tyrian Purple Protoss. But it's a Skozi this time, a 4th race for Cosmonarchy. Yeah, we have that. We have a 4th race. It's real, it's true, it's here. And we also have Kenoli in the top left. He is the Pumpkin Zerg. He's always Pumpkin. Makes the color guessing real easy, I gotta admit. Not something that I ever have to question when he's playing. Unless, there was that one match in the Throne Room stage, I want to say it was Acropolis 2, because that was Kenoli's debut, and he wound up going up against Aoud. But it could have also been Acropolis 3. I can't quite remember his matchup. So I'm going to say it was Acropolis 2, Throne Room stage. Upper match there. There would have been the one of the opening quarterfinals. I want to say quarterfinal number 4, because that's how specific my memory can sometimes be. And I gotta tell you, Aoud also likes the pumpkin color, or at the time did. And Aoud stole Kenoli's pumpkin color every match. Coincidentally, 3-0 in favor of Aoud. Clearly, the pumpkin lord. But yeah, Kenoli must have felt a little hard done by. Right now, he's going to go for his Larvosk Pool opener. Pretty standard play there. And we do have a 2 Radix into Chantry opener here for Godwheat. So this is the Chantry where when you finish this structure up, it actually provides you a healing field as long as your units are not in active combat. And on top of that, it also provides cloaking. So any unit in the radius is cloaked until their next attack, and that cloak does not expire based on time, so you can just walk your unit across the map while it's cloaked. And yeah, that probably sounds very strong, very powerful, but Skozi units need the help, okay? Let me just be real with you guys. They're not built for frontal combat, so it's a tricky little thing that you can probably knowledge check a lot of players with, depending on what all you're doing. But there it is. It's completed, and you can see it's providing that healing aura, which doesn't currently do anything because there's no wounded units, but you also have the pilgrims mining the minerals and plenty of missionaries here going to be benefiting from the cloak. So it looks like Godwheat has not really changed his tune that much from all of the things that I've seen him do. For example, when he was playing against, Han Mono in a recent cast on the channel, well, recent in terms of recent tournament. Definitely one of those same kind of moves here. Going back to basic, I guess you could say. Is this a basic Skozi strategy? I mean, I don't know. It'll probably be in the thumbnail, so maybe you guys can come up with an answer already before I even ask the question in the video. That would show that you're really invested in this here enterprise, and if you want to invest more literally, Pronogo and Week 7 on coffee, dude. It's a good place to go. Also, you can just PayPal me. Wink. We have the landlock coming out for Godwheat, and a couple of those missionaries, I like that they were standing guard at the ramp like they were the bouncers, and the Zeth did not manage to make the cut. They were not let in to the front door of the casino. Godwheat gambling here that his cloak attack will pay off, and there's just a lot of quads. I don't actually think you can get in here. There is no way to move through the throng, the masses. Kenoli either hasn't noticed or doesn't care, because now he's just moving his entire army across the map instead of What is this? The cloaked Ascozi units are trying to body block, maybe? Or maybe they're... I don't know. I don't think Godwit's even paid attention to them. He's just like, oh, there's a lot of Zerg units. I might be cloaked, but I don't think I can actually attack them. And it looks like Kenoli is going to fall away from that, back to his natural, because that is what he wants, is a natural. What is he doing otherwise? Macro hatch? No, Hydrith then, before that hatch actually gets put down. By the way, if you guys don't know Kenoli as a player, he has been with us for many years now. He's over on Fluxer instead of Discord. You can definitely check out our Fluxer server. Good place to be. I got to tell you, Kenoli is... He's got his style, man. He's got his style. And yeah, you might have noticed that he could have expanded twice with the amount of money that he had. Not that you necessarily would at this time, just a statement. You know, he could have put down a macro hatch or something, but that's just, that's not his style. He likes to let the money rise up a little bit more before he spends it. Number go up, you know? Not his APM, but the other numbers go up. And I love that he's actually watching for any harvesting rotation over here in these little corners. You can return resources to the neutral treasuries, any neutral town center, like even if you had like a hatch or a landlock in this case, the town centers that you actually can build, as well as any of the other myriad structures that provide you with the opportunity to return resources to. If they're owned by neutral, it's considered an ally, and therefore you can return to an allied town center in Cosmonarchy's rules. Also makes team games pretty fun. We'll have more of those soon, I'm sure. But definitely something that you want to watch out for on a map like Corrosion. We also had a match on Macroglia in yesterday's cast, and Protoss temples are also those drop-off points in the same way. So yes, somebody in the comments there, Chumbeka, was saying they were drop-off points the whole time. Yep, yes, indeed, they were. They are. Still are. You can still play that map. A function has been made, but only for objects. It's a pretty pivotal unit for the Ascozi, it seems like, when you're going for these more slow-moving, ground-based compositions, because they absorb incoming damage around them in a pretty wide radius. We don't have a great visual effect to indicate their radius right now, but definitely something that you can check out when you just see the number of units that are owned by, in this case, Godwi, being shielded by that. And when the object takes fatal damage, it deploys it into like almost a static structure, like a deployed siege tank almost, like a deployed phalanx. You can have situations like that where the object essentially is deployed upon taking fatal damage, regains its life bar, gets a little bit more armor, and can't attack anymore. And so that's an example of, oh yeah, my object is even being more useful than that. But I will point out, Godwi does not have any crowd control. Here comes the attack from Kenoli. See if he can actually break through some of these defenses. It's having a pretty hard time actually getting through those objects. And if you can't get through them, you're not going to be able to do any damage to the biotic units here from Godweed. His Vicars have made it to the field. You can see here that they're sort of sauntering around. And, well, I don't necessarily like this move up from Godweed so far from home, since he doesn't have much to defend behind this. But maybe with more objects, including a couple of these Moonwalkers over here that are indeed deployed. Eventually we'll fix it so they don't animate like that when they're not able to move. But the... I am noticing that Kenoli has a thin opportunity here to just go straight in for the jugular and, you know, peel off some of these units. Here comes an Ovoleth, and it will, oh, I guess it was the Zeth that actually saw it initially. Hydras are out, and they're going to try to dive onto the objects and just ground them where they stand. The other units may be going to sandwich in from the south, but honestly, Godweed looks pretty good to push through here and do some pivotal damage to Kenoli. I can't really imagine Izira cores of all units really being that useful. I mean, I guess, yeah, the objects are going to take some damage there, but it just doesn't seem like it's the most useful way to attempt to fight the objects. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, though. I can see if you can get a lot of the bounce attacks off, the object is going to be sustaining a lot of damage in that respect. But there's only the one circuit. It's going to go down very quickly. This looks like a really solid line of mid-range fighters. The missionaries basically performing as chaff with no crowd control from Kenoli's side of things. All of the objects, bar one, are dead. Finally, they all end up falling, but I think the remaining Ascozi units are in such number that it's going to be really hard for Kenoli to clean this up. And reinforcements have come in. This should be GG from our Zerg player, and indeed it is. Godweed powering on through at an 8-minute victory. Bodes well for him in the set. We're going to have to see what else he's got cooking up in the next few games. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, into game number 2. It is time for Godweed to continue his efforts in the Ascozi race. We did get to see him versus Doglived in an Ascozi versus Ascozi match in one of the recent tribunals, and I hope Doglived signs up for our final chance to qualify for the tournament proper, which is Gauntlet Stage B. It's going to be happening later this weekend at the time of recording, and if you want to sign up, Discord server, Fluxor server, you got the links there. It's a great place to, you know, just sort of take your stab at seeing if you can make it into the biggest tournament that Cosmonarchy currently has. But I'm hoping that Doglived actually does play. I mean, it's been a little bit since I've seen him active. I did give him a ping. We'll see if he responds. But overall, without Doglived there, Shopkeeper Dog has decided to be Ascozi. If he decides to continue to be Ascozi, I'm sure he'll qualify regardless, because he is a top player. He could qualify to Acropolis with any race, probably, even Zerg, and I don't think it would be too bad. But definitely Protoss. He plays Protoss versus Terran very well, at least. I don't know about the other matchups. That being said, he seems to have taken a liking to the Ascozi. We'll see if he sticks to it. But assuming Shopkeeper Dog goes back to being Terran at any point, Godwheat might actually be the best Ascozi in the server. I mean, you got to give some props to hit him up. You got to announce him. He's our Flash, you know? Like, if you were trying to say the best Terran of current StarCraft 1, you'd start be thinking about like Light or something, but then you'd have to say, oh no, there is Flash. He's the greatest player besides Flash. Yeah, so anybody who, you know, I don't think of hit him up as any particular race player first, because he's always a random player. He's our best random player, guys. So that does, I guess, mean that he's our best player with all the races. But that being said, Kenoli and Godwheat are dueling it out here, and Godwheat at least wants to prove that he is the best Ascozi main in the server. I think that would be a good way of putting it. He's once again going for his Chantry Open. We didn't really see it give him much of an advantage on Corrosion, but we are on Macroglia now. The ramp here is pretty compact still. I don't think it'll be terribly difficult for anyone to hold it. Even with some of the tiles here missing for what I'm assuming are not aesthetic reasons, but actually like functional ones where the tiles are kind of blended together weirdly. This is a situation where I believe BDB just wanted it to be a little bit more compact. So it's a little bit more open to get up here and a little bit more compact overall. And so, ergo, I'm going to assume that this one's going to be pretty easy to handle. There's already an Ovaleth here, which could be for drops, but I actually don't see that many units being made right now to handle that. And so, like, you think about the investment it takes to get a Chantry versus Zerg, you just make one Ovaleth and then kind of hang out for a little bit, and then you can use it for a scout, you can use it for drops, you can use it to grab a Vagrant, turn it into something else. Yeah, the Ovaleth does indeed immediately help snipe away one of the missionaries, looks like. And we do have a little bit of a brawl now, but you got to really watch out for the claws count here. It's a little bit higher than you expected, and some of the units on it, oh yeah, we didn't even get the proselyte jumps. Not what you were hoping for there whatsoever. The proselyte jump is pretty good at getting you out of a sticky situation, speeds up your units, gives them a little bit of a heal, and the missionaries will just passively get a little bit of a heal and a little bit of a speed up when you take damage. But you don't really want that to be, you know, what you're relying on when you're trying to escape with the bulk of your army. And it does look like Godwheat was planning on expanding, but his Pilgrim is idle in the natural. No way you should start the landlock right now. You kind of just got to put that guy, park him over there behind the resources. Yeah, see if you can't just hold out for dear life with some missionaries coming. Radix number 3 is on the way. We do have objects coming, so it looks like, broadly speaking, the same game plan here, same plan is in effect. Here comes the Ovaleth to spy on the Ascozi army, and expanding both players are, but I will say that Godwheat's is a bit risky and Kenoli's is much faster anyway. So, Zorki's Shroud instead of the Hydrath Den. I like this adaptation. I like the Ovaleth adaptation from Kenoli. It's very cheap for him to go ahead and make that guy when you compare it to the Chantry investment. And on top of it all, I really like that he's going for Shroud, because I think Lakis here is a really good option versus the Biotic units. If you were going to go Den, you'd probably have to skip straight to Battle. Hydras just don't seem to cut it versus the mid-range shooters that end up firing back. If you're going to go for Hydra Izzy, you should probably be doing that against maybe more of the function-based compositions, or somebody trying to rush out to tier 2 or something. It probably hits harder to hit them with the Hydrath units as opposed to trying to go for the Zorki's ones by comparison. So I just think that's something to keep in mind if you're trying to counter some of the playstyles that the Ascozi are featuring. Only 2 Quas. Oh no! Suddenly, a huge unburrow from Kenoli. That's one of his favorite moves, but the object is so tanky that almost all of the claws are dead before the object dies. Now we're going to see if the turns can table. It doesn't look very good right now for Kenoli. It looks to me like he's going to suffer quite a few casualties on those Droleths there. Even if he goes for a burrow, he wouldn't really be able to get himself out of dodge. Yeah, down to only 4 workers in there. He tries to do what he can to stall out that loss, but Godwee feeling pretty powerful here. Only up by 4 workers, and Zerg can rebound pretty easily, but this does look kind of dire. Still waiting for those Zoryus to hatch. You want to get the armor shred that they afford you when they spawn their Rillarocores cores out, and put them right onto that object and make it a little bit easier for the quads to deal with. But so far, looking back at the base of Godwee, it does feel like he's got what he needs. The object, okay, this is really big. I looked away at the wrong time here, but it's really important for that object to have been sniped. I think without that, the attack is a lot less toothy. And as soon as you ground it, it becomes a lot harder to stand and fight and position around the map. And so really well played actually by Kenoli there. He doesn't even need to wait for the Zoryus to push this force back. And if you look at the army here, it's all missionary the whole way through. And there are 3 objects that aren't quite in the right spot rally-wise. And now we've got the Vicars, because we did need to wait for the Gauntlet to be made in order to unlock those. Doesn't look like Cardinals are particularly Godweed's speed right now. He doesn't really want them. And that's one of the basic units that you can get access to out of the Radix. But the Zoryuses are coming, and those can be pretty deadly to these kinds of compositions. The Vicars are going to try to slow them down and get some splash damage going, and that does mean that the Zoryus could have been popped, but it was not to be. Bit of a harder engage with not really that much ranged fire support in the fight, so Kenoli ends up going back to his natural here, and he is going for a Khaz'trith. He's got a couple of Lakes coming up, and it looks like he wants to set up some static defense. I don't hate the idea of just trying to turtle up a little bit from either player's perspective necessarily, but I do have to point out that Godweed's powered up into a pretty good mid-game army. He's now building the Cypher. This is going to allow him not only access to a few more units out of his Radix and his function, but he can also tech up to tier 2 off of this. The requirement is the Cypher and the Gauntlet. So when you see both of those structures completed for the Escozi, you know they have access to tier 2 production. See if that's something that we see in this particular matchup. Godwee trying his best to take aggressive map posture, attempting to assert a little bit of his power, but I actually don't know how sufficient his current composition is going to be to break up a spot like this. We even have the burrowed Zoryus regenerating life a little bit faster. Burrowed units do that in general. And you can see here another object getting claimed. Not really ideal, but the Khaz'trith helping out quite a bit, and down the object will go. So yeah, he did hemorrhage a few of those. This guy's stuck here, unless you make like ink blots or something. You can't really reactivate them very easily. You can use the Vicars to pull them around, and we saw, I saw Doglived doing that in some practice matches some time ago, but Godwee just hasn't remembered that, or he doesn't know about that. He's just not the best Escozi man right now, guys. He's working on it, I swear. Iral Iris is on the way. A pretty big change to the Iral Iris that was made a little bit ago, if you guys don't know about it, is that the time cost of it went down to 20 seconds. It's a very expensive structure, 450 minerals, 900 Vespene gas, and definitely one of those structures that people look at the cost of and go, huh? That's how much I'm supposed to spend to tech up? And yeah, Cosmonarchy is a game of many tech levels, but that is definitely one of them, and it is going to be made a lot faster now than it was before. Worth pointing out there. Gas nodes coming for the natural, both on tier 1 and tier 2, as well as the main. So we get you can build the Escagan without teching up, but you can't actually cap your Geyser unless you tech up. So this is a really interesting build. The Spire's coming out as well. Kenoli's going for a 2-base, very heavy gas type of play. I can only surmise he wants to go for a really big flock of Mutas, or he wants to maybe go for Protathalors into Sovrolets. I'm trying to think about what would the gas-intensive part of this be, because you're getting a lot of Vespene when you cap both your Escagan and your Excisin. Let's see, because if it's not a bunch of Mutas, oh, there they are, 3 pairs of Mutas. If it's not a buttload of Mutas, then I do wonder if it will be much of anything for him. Here comes the attack attempt. We have some Mimics for detection. This is going to allow those Lakes to do what they can. When they consume corpses and create that orange flashing overlay, that means armor penetration bonuses have been transferred over to an array of those units. Another thing that does it is when you have a deployed scepter. And by deployed, I mean like it took fatal damage and deployed like the object does. But the first scepter here has been made, and it's all the way back inside Godwheat's own territory. So it's not going to be coming up for him just yet. The Avaleth flying over to see what they can see. And we have some tier 2 structures after all. The Prosceniums and the Bestiary. Okay, so Doranin are coming out. That is something that Godwheat wants. That's the combo that you get there. They're sort of, they're heavily armored lizards that run into the front line and just start attacking stuff. They're pretty cool, pretty metal. Do recommend, but I don't know if they're going to be... I guess that is how you would try to break this position, thinking about it. You might even go for Doranin empowered by the Chantry to be cloaked and see if you can just run them in someplace and, you know, hit the worker lines or something. The Khaz'it is here for detection. There is no other detection, though. If you manage to... I guess the Iral Iris is a detector. Hold that thought, though. We do have the attempted breakout from the Zerg. The Mutalisks are just coming it in as a combat unit. The Vicar's not focusing them down, so the splash damage is pretty minimal here. Most of the Mutas, if not all of them, seem to have survived, and the ground army hasn't been dealt with either. The objects kind of scattered around. The Skozi army is fully broken. A Skozi contains. I'm not so sure about those, at least not yet with that particular comp. I have some Aphorists here. They're going to be able to make short work of the ground units based on their splash damage. But actually, a big portion of the ground army here is Zoryu, so mostly a supportive unit. And something that we don't see too often is air units like Mutas being paired with the Zoryus, but the Zoryus does increase movement speed towards its victims, even for air units. Now, the Mutas are pairing off right now, heading into other territories. Mimics are here to try to empower the Scepter to attack more often, and it does chunk down one of the Zoryuses very quickly, but even without detection, the Landlocks can't handle this much Muta. There's no way for the Mutalisks to be stopped. Not now. You're going to need some pretty dedicated tech in order to deal with that. And speaking of tech, I mean, the gauntlets can go down. The Landlocks are broken open. We've got the Bestiaries, but we don't have any Doranin out yet. Down that second Landlock will go. The Bounce is even taking out one of the Radixes. You got to watch out for this if you're an Skozi player. Your structures are not very durable. They are pretty brittle by comparison to the other races. Landlock's a little bit of an exception, but even it has less HP. And a little even less HP than the Hatch by comparison. So I guess it's not that much of an exception after all. I believe this, based on this chat, I'm going to say that the thing that they're talking about right now is just the admin losing sync, but that's why we have the replay, guys. The replay will be our arbiter. I'm glad. The you meme has really caught on. Everybody just says you. That's all they say. Muta's grouping up here north of the central temple there, northern temple. I was going to say north of the northern temple, but that's like, okay, northerner temple. Start building one, maybe. Oh, wow. 48 Mutas. Turns out that does a lot of damage, and they're pretty well stacked up here now. Play on for now, indeed. As long as those Doranin don't get on top of the Mutaflock, and we don't have too many Vicars coming in to do much damage, I really don't think that the Mutas are going to be a problem for Kenoli. I think they're only going to be an asset. I don't think you're going to see the Skozi army tearing them to pieces at all. Big worker transfer sort of automated here because the Landlock has gone down. He's going to rebuild it instantaneously. But he hasn't even finished the ones in his main and natural yet. He's attempting to pursue with his Doranin, but I can't imagine it working out for him in the same way that he wants it to. There's so many Mutas, guys. 66 of the things, and we've got an Olgor Cavern on the way. Muta Ultra is not something you see too often, and the Vicars are going to bounce a lot of damage off there. You can see some of the Mutas were very, very wounded indeed, some below half HP. But GG has to be called as Kenoli strikes back in the second game of the series. And we're going to be moving on to game 3, looking at Impulsion, I believe, is our battleground for that one. Let's see what happens under there. All right, going into game 3, we have a very quick move with double Pilgrim. Godwheat, not happy about that last loss, it looks like. Going to be pushing his way across. By the way, I think his color in the last game was Saddle Brown, but I kept forgetting to guess or actually check. Godwheat now is clearly Ultramarine. Ultramarine Skozi. That sounds pretty banger. We do have Kenoli as a Pumpkin Zerg. He was definitely Pumpkin last game as well. So this is a proxy play of sorts, but what is it? And he's not building an extra Pilgrim. He's not even using this guy and telling him to go mine. Oh, Godwheat, have you been playing StarCraft 2? What have you been doing, dude? It's double Radix. It's not just team building. That's not why he sent the second. Yeah, double proxy Radix. So Kenoli might shut this one down really quickly, but he is going for a Larvosk, and after that he'll go for his pool. And so it's conservative build order here that does get your units out a little bit slower. It's not like cheese-proof as a build. Oh my god, he's sending a third Pilgrim. Man's got 7 workers on minerals. Now, the Zerg has an actual worker lead in terms of mining. That almost never happens at this stage of the game. But we'll see if that turns into anything in particular. Quick little update or reminder for anybody who doesn't know, but you can, in fact... Oh my god, he's doing a third Radix. That's 3, guys. We've got our 3. Maybe this will be the thumbnail. I gotta tell you, the pool is not a requirement for making broodlings, or Rillarocores as they're called in Cosmonarchy. You can make them from larvae. I don't think they'd be very good versus a Skozi infantry, but that might be what Kenoli needs to do, because his pool is about 60% done, and the missionaries are already being raised inside the Radix. So, yeah, he's power building that third one as well. This is looking... This actually reminds me of like every StarCraft 2 game north of Platinum that I casted back in the days, like 2016 or whatever, when I actually casted StarCraft 2. Everybody would just proxy everybody else. So it's like one guy in his base doing nothing, just hanging out, vibing, and then another guy like aggressively, sweatily building multiple barracks in the middle of the map and just waypointing them into his enemy's base and hoping that won him the game. So I don't actually know what flavor we're going to see here, but he's even bringing the Pilgrims. I actually really like this. A little known fact is that Pilgrims debuff enemies and turn them into resources for the Skozi player if they die after being attacked. It's a passive that's made by a few units for the Skozi. It does look to me like, despite that, though, there's way more quas than Godweed actually expected there to be. And I don't know how Godweed's going to come out of this situation alive. He's still waypointing more of them, still trying his best to see if he can cycle back. If he can get another rally out of these Radixes, he could maybe chew through the quads that already exist. He does need to micro backwards, and Kenoli, the jig is up. The Radixes have been revealed. The problem is that there's been a second Larvosk made for Kenoli. He's got so much larva, and you don't even need that much money to make pool units. But if you can get up to the meat grinder, if you can mulch these pool units, maybe there can be a chance. It just doesn't quite look like Godweed has it. He calls it GG, concedes Impulsion, and that was a very blazingly fast last game. I thought that it would be longer just based on the replay size, but that must have just been all the spam clicking that they were doing to micro their little hearts out. I do have to share some sad news, and that is that the last game did not end up surviving the replay, but it was a situation where Godweed conceded or Kenoli won, and that led Kenoli on. I was told that basically the winner of the third match also won the series overall, but we don't have the replay for that one, which is a crying shame because I did want to see more AVZ. But we do have to say commiserations then to Godweed. I was expecting maybe he would power through and I would reveal that actually he's going to make it further into the bracket and he'll play the winner of AOT versus Grass, but instead it is Zerg time. Kenoli taking it over Godweed, and we'll check back in very soon for our next and final quarterfinal, even though we only have 3 of them, and that's not 4, that's 3. Bye.